Here's a lady who's been wondering if there is a more dense layer still than the one we inhabit. And the answer is absolutely yes, because there is consciousness in every point of creation. Divine being creates the whole universe, and within the whole universe, it's present, wholeness is present, the source of creation, consciousness, pure consciousness is present at every point. And there are lots and lots of places that are more dense than Earth. Earth doesn't have such a big gravitational field, right? But Saturn has a much denser gravitational field. The sun has a much denser gravitational field. And then black holes have really dense gravitational fields. And there's life everywhere. But the idea of there being life in some of these other places ties into the next part of the question, which is, could we be, like, if we live at a less dense level, could we be sort of like, and we think that, like, well, angels are less dense than we are, right? So the angels exist like down here at the finest level of manifestation. So the angels can sometimes have an influence that comes up to the surface. And when I say angels, please, for the new people, you must understand, I'm not talking about something outside of you. I'm not talking about some authoritative expert out there, some authoritative expert on all things heavenly that you don't have access to or that you don't know about. No, 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 no. Our physical body is like a point, it's like a sensitive antenna that's been placed in the material level of creation by the divine, and all the pathway from the sensitive antenna back to the original mechanism, all that is you, including the angels. So your subtle self exerts an influence that causes the material level to manifest the way it does, to be, manifest level to be the way it is. And yes, there are denser levels of creation. And for those denser forms of life, we are also part of their reality. They are also part of our reality. Yesterday, somebody I love very much was reminding me that it had been predicted that as natural law becomes more lively, as consciousness expands, and as our consciousness expands and becomes more evolved, that we will see more places in this level of creation, in our reality, that overlap with the subtler levels and the denser levels. And so, like, mythical creatures will start to become more likely to be seen, lively and likely to be seen. That they'll come up, there comes a point where there's more of an overlap between the subtler levels and the denser levels. And also our senses of perception become more refined. So we can see already some of these forms of creation. For example, at the astral level of creation, consciousness looks like threads or streams or filaments or rivers. Consciousness moves like rivers. Well, if a person's refinement of perception is such that they're actually picking up that information from the web of life, from the astral field directly, then one sees life form that looks like snake-like. And they're alive, the forms, the threads. If I think, I'm going to go to the store, and I don't want to end up at the library, I want to go to the store, then I make like a little thread of awareness. It goes over to the store, and it helps me, it saves me from ending up somewhere where I didn't want to. Oh, I didn't want to go to the dump, I wanted to go to the store. I didn't want to go to the swimming pool, I want to go to the store. So right, it takes me there, I created it with my own body, with my own awareness, but it has a kind of life in it. It's life force, it's pure life force. And it goes to the store, and then it just keeps going. It keeps going. Our thoughts, our words, our intentions, they keep radiating further and further and further into the universe. The universe is filled with these threads. And some people who see and some people who have certain types of experiences, they recognize like snakes, dragons, because they fly around, right? Yeah. So that's where, I mean, that's where the idea, the mythical idea of the mythical being, the mythical beast, that's one place where that comes from. For somebody who doesn't understand the dynamics of consciousness and the way consciousness works, how it folds in on itself to create the manifest field, all that seems like a bunch of magic hooey. It's like a bunch of hogwash. My grandfather used to call it hogwash. But it just seems like ridiculous, like just fantasy stuff. But the thing is, if you understand how consciousness works, then all of a sudden these things that have been part of our historically part of the legends and myths that make up the inner story. They describe the inner landscape of mankind and have for centuries upon centuries across cultural boundaries. Then it starts to make a little more sense. And it doesn't seem so much like magic or some kind of silly business or fake or something. It's just another way of describing reality. That's all. You said once you healed an angel. Yes, I have worked with angelic forms quite a bit, actually. So can there be dysfunction in beings at every level? Yeah, because at any level of the manifest field, until you hit the absolute, like here we can kind of pretend like my picture behind me is like, well, don't count that. But anyway, that's a lifeguard station right there. But anyway, if you think of this part here as the silent source of creation, and then the whole sky area is where the manifestation is happening. You can say anything from the horizon line up has the potential to fall prey to the illusion of separation. And anytime that happens, then there's a potential for wholeness to be reestablished. So you can say like the angels, they just hang out right down here, right next to the field of being, the ocean of consciousness. So she's wondering if the less dense beings, if it's true that there are such things as less dense beings, which there absolutely are at the same level of consciousness as us. And the answer is no, it's different. I mean, they can be. It depends on how you measure evolution of consciousness. It depends on how you measure it. And we can measure it in different ways. We can measure it in how expanded is the consciousness. We can measure it in how refined is the perception. We can measure it in how integrated is wholeness with the whole manifest area, the senses of perception and the levels of experience. So lots of different ways of measuring it. And I would say that it's a big universe and it's a field of all possibilities. So anything can be measured or anything can happen at any level. So you can get a creature, a being with a very fine physiology, almost hardly manifest, is almost like pure energy body, who has some very big illusions stuck with them. And their consciousness is unable to expand in a certain area. And by going into that relationship that you have with that structure of creation, which is also part of your own being, and bringing wholeness back, it opens up the experience for yourself. It opens up the experience for that form of consciousness, which sits at a very fine level. You can think of it as like organs of your own body, subtle organs, subtle, like chakras or subtle organs, right?